koutou. I'm Carol Much, Professor in the Faculty of Education and Social Work, and it's my absolute pleasure to invite you here today. But before we get further into proceedings, I'd like to invite Dan Hikaroa to do a karakia for us.
O kia ora mai tātou, ngā mihi o te ata, kia koutou katoa, i runga te kaupapa, i runga te karanga, o te mana o te rā, o te mana o tēnei kaupapa me ki the Cable Awards. He karakia tātou. Manawa mai te Māori nuku, manawa mai te Māori rangi. Ko te Māori kei au, he Māori tipua. Ka pakaru mai te pō, tau mai te Māori, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Kia ora mai tātou, kia ora.
Right, just excuse me while I get our slides up. Right, and we're ready. Right, so now we'll move on to talking a little bit more about the Impact Awards, how they came to be, and I've got some pieces of information both for you as the audience and for our awardees. So first of all, just to tell you a little bit about the awards, as you can see from the slides, that the idea was that we were looking for pieces of research that enabled us to recognise particular skills and qualities that our researchers and scholars showed in contributing to beyond academia to highlight their creative practice or their research in a way that impacted society, the environment, the economy, communities, as I've said, sort of beyond academia and beyond the confines of the university. And we're particularly looking for in what ways did that research change or benefit a particular group. And it could be that it was something that worked in a particular sector, such as schooling or health, or something that focused on a particular community. It could have been at a national level or an international level. It might have focused on policy or practice. And we've got a wonderful array of awardees today to be able to share with you. And when the judges were looking at the assessment criteria, then they were looking at what was the size of that impact. So how you will see our little background there, which is the idea of a pebble dropping into a pool of water. And so what was the impact of that? How wide did those ripples spread? And did it impact just one group or more than one group, one sector or more than one sector? And how widely was that distributed? And you will see that there's quite a variety in the awards that we give today. We asked the nominees to explain the summary of their impact, describe how they came to do that particular work and what the context was, and then show evidence of the impact. And also we asked for a few sources just to be able to corroborate that particular impact. And we had a wonderful judging panel, as you can see, Dale Bailey, Elizabeth Aiken-Rose, Elaine Oshry, who chaired this for us, Marie Schroff and Nicole Perry. And I'm going to introduce those a little bit more in a moment. But as I said, I need to step back to our housekeeping. So first of all, in terms of you, the audience, wonderful, wonderful welcome to you. And just a few things. Firstly, the chat is not available, but if you want to signal your congratulations to any of your colleagues and friends or awardees that you see today, you can either use the Q&A function, which has been enabled, or you can use the little emoticon that enables you to clap. And for our awardees, you're all sitting there anxiously wondering what's going to happen next and what happens to you. If you have any queries, Usha is the person for you to contact. And you will also receive your certificate after the announcements today, and how you may collect your $1,000 prize, which we are sending out to you just to recognise how pleased we are that you've entered our awards competition and that you have been recognised as having that ability to extend your research beyond academia. So now moving on to, we have some speakers as part of our program before we get to talk to a little bit more to and about the judges and the awardees. So our first speaker, just to get us all in the mood and thinking about impact beyond academia, is Dan Hikaroa, that you have already met. And I am, sorry, escape. Just need to stop sharing and find my run sheet so that I can give him a much more formal introduction. So Dr. Daniel Hikaroa is a senior lecturer in Māori Studies, Te Wānanga o Waipapa, in the Faculty of Arts, and is part of the executive team at Te Marama, the Centre for Fundamental Inquiry. In 2020, Dan became the Cultural Commissioner on the New Zealand National Commission for UNESCO, and I also sit on that commission, and I do know the wonderful work that he does. He's a member of the Ngā Kai Hautu Tikanga Tau Statutory Advisory Committee to the Environmental Authority, member of Watercare EAG, a hapu representative member on both the Waitomo Caves Management Committee and Waitomo Caves Environmental Advisory Group, and an independent scientific advisor for various hapu, iwi, and ahuwhenua groups. So tēnā koe, Dan, it's my absolute pleasure to have you introduce you and have you talk to us.
O kia ora, Carol, o te rā koutou katoa, kua toa mai roto I te zui I te ata nei, tēnā koutou. Yeah, and so when Carol said, hey, there was an opportunity to talk about impact and research impact and invited me to do so, I relished the opportunity, because sometimes in these big institutions, we lose the focus. We lose the fact that, much of our work is intended for beneficial outcomes. It's not just about trying to get students onto the seats of the university. It's not just about trying to gain research contracts. It's not just about trying to publish our research and peer-reviewed outputs. All of those are part of the job, of course, and they are important, but there are other things that we think which are equally important. And I just want to acknowledge the foresight and the vision of the university in establishing these awards. And so I'm just going to reflect for a few minutes on my personal journey and a seminal conversation I had with a former Dean of Science when I was at a crossroads in what I was going to do in my career. So I've actually got a background in science, a PhD in paleontology, and I had a chat with him, and he said, look, he thought his advice to me was to seek out a postdoc at an international university working with some of the world's very best, and to find a niche, to find something in the world that you would be the absolute very best at. And then he was certain that there would be a place for me back at the University of Auckland once I'd completed that postdoc. My response to him left him a bit confused, because he said, so what's your dream and vision? I said, well, I want to make a positive difference. I have a certain skill set, I have some expertise, and whatever it is I want to do, I want to make sure that I can make a positive difference. And what I've seen and noticed is that, I'm almost the only Māori in my graduating cohort in sciences and geology at least. And so I thought maybe I could work there and maybe work in hapori Māori and Māori communities around New Zealand to try and realise their dreams and help solve their problems. It's fair to say that he didn't really understood why I wanted to do that, and I didn't really understand why he wanted me to do what he thought was best. And I think that maybe reflected a previously held view in universities that there's a certain track for doing things, and it's about being the world's best and getting those academic papers out. And I think that conversation really set the course for my career today. So I undertook a postdoc in climate change, where we tried to understand how the oceans responded to a significant rise in sea surface temperature following global sea level rise, global temperature rises in the past. And from there, I had various roles in different research institutes. And I had a key one at Ngā Pai o Te Maramatanga, New Zealand's Māori Centre of Research Excellence. And I was the research director there for 6 years. And impact was always one of the key factors that was first and foremost in our minds when undertaking the work of Ngā Pai o Te Maramatanga. And in fact, the first question on a research proposal was how does a Māori community benefit from this research? You know, that's how interested in impact we really were from that. And so in my current role as co-director of Te Pūnaha Matatini, the Centre of Research Excellence focused on data, complexity and insight, similarly, we have a focus on impact and kindness and how we do things. And when people ask for a bio, kind of similar to the one that Carol introduced me for, often they'll want to know my disciplinary background. And I think that's reflective of that conversation I had with the Dean many years ago, because I prefer to see myself as someone who helps realise the dreams and solve the challenges facing Māori communities. And the university and its structures and the resources and the research funding we secure is the vehicle that enables me to do that. So all of my work has been within and for Māori communities. All of it has been at their invite. And hence I'm just delighted to see that the university is looking to recognise work and scholarship and impact in more than just the standard ways in which our efforts might have been understood and, dare I say, measured in the past. And I'll just, in closing, just reflect on that that wonderful quote, and I forget who said it actually, that not all that's counted counts, and not all that counts can be counted. And so this is an opportunity for us to address and celebrate all those successes. Nō reira, kia ora mai tātou katoa.
Kia ora, Dan, thank you so much for those wise words. I think that makes you a role model, I think, for thinking that you can make a difference to what is around you rather than going out and saving the world. And you exemplify our illustration of dropping the pebble in the pond and letting the ripples naturally spread out. So I do appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And so now we'll move on to our next speaker, who is so interested in impact that this in fact is her role. So I'd love to introduce Dr. Faith Welsh, who's the university's inaugural research impact manager, and she leads on strategic initiatives designed to increase the social, environmental, cultural and economic benefits of our research. And she comes to this role with over 10 years experience in research impact focused roles in the UK and in New Zealand. And I know she's very passionate about creating a positive impact culture within the University of Auckland. So over to you, Faith.
Sure, thank you, Carol. Kia ora koutou. I'm Faith Welsh, Research Impact Manager, Potaki Panga Rangaho, and I sit within the Office of Research Strategy and Integrity. So thank you for inviting me to say a few words this morning. I'm going to instantly go completely off script because just listening to how Dan was talking about his research and why he's a researcher, is the reason that I work in research management and I work particularly in research impact is because I'm constantly inspired by the work that our researchers and our research community and how they make a difference to our broader communities. And that's why I do what I do. And I just think it's fantastic. So thank you, Dan. And thank you for everyone who's applied to these awards today. So many of you will know that the emphasis on research impact has really increased in New Zealand for a number of years now. We saw the Impact of Research position paper come out from the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment at the end of 2019, and they've really started to shape or begin to shape a national impact agenda. There's been increased emphasis on planning for impact from our main funders, and the review of the Performance-Based Research Fund really highlighted assessing impact and engagement. So at the University of Auckland, we first launched a research impact and engagement framework to respond to this evolving landscape back in 2019. And the framework itself was designed by our research community. So I've seen a number of the names that are here today are actually involved in developing this framework. And it was confirmed, as Dan already discussed, actually, that lots of our research was already having impact. But one of the main messages we heard loudest was that not all research impact was incentivized, and it was not celebrated in its many and diverse forms. So I'm really glad to be here today at an event that is specifically designed to recognise the effort that it takes to mobilise research, make a difference to our communities. So I just wanted to say well done to the Cable faculties, everyone involved, the organisers and all of our researchers, because this is just fantastic. But off the back of this, I'm delighted to finally announce something that's been a long time in the making. There will be a new award category as part of the university's annual Celebrating Research Excellence events next year, the Research Impact Award. So this award is important and timely recognition of our commitment to relevant, purposeful, impactful research for our communities and really living the values that are in Taumata Teitei. And it will recognise a real wide range of disciplinary backgrounds and career stages, and it actually replaces the previous University Commercialisation Medal. So in 2022, the university will be awarding up to 5 Research Impact Awards. These awards will be presented to individuals or small teams that have led research projects or programmes of work that have made an impact beyond academia. Winners will receive $10,000 as either a prize or grant to spend towards future impact and engagement activities. And the awards will be made across a real broad range of impact categories: social, environmental, economic, health and cultural impact, although no entries will be forced into one single box. So these will be launched alongside the 2022 Research Excellence Medal and Early Career Research Excellence Awards. And I strongly encourage everyone here to find out more about these awards and consider applying next year. And on that note, I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the event. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you so much, Faith. And we have to say, well done, the Cable faculties, and before that, Business and Economics, because they are the people who launched this idea of having awards that recognise impact. So I think we'll all take a little quiet pat on the back and so on, and know that this is such a great idea. It's been picked up by the wider university. But anyway, thank you for giving us your time, Faith, and putting how the University of Auckland considers research and research impact into context. Great. So moving on now, it's coming to the exciting time when we're going to hear from each of the committee, the members of the committee that did the judging, and each of them is going to introduce 2 to 4 of our awardees. And first up will be Marie Schroff, and I'll just introduce Marie and then she will introduce her 2 winners. And she's giving 2 because there were 2 that were outstanding. They stood out above the others, and we put them in a little category on their own, although we are treating everyone equally. Everyone gets the same prize in terms of the amount of money. But I think these were 2 that the judging panel wanted to make special mention of. But first, Marie. Marie Schroff is currently chair of the New Zealand Electoral Commission, member of the Consumer New Zealand Board, and of the Consumer Foundation, and a member of the Media Council. She held the independent statutory position of Privacy Commissioner from 2003 to 2014, a time when technology change made privacy an issue of public concern and necessitated increased privacy protections for New Zealanders. Prior to that, Marie held the position of Secretary of the Cabinet and Clerk of the Executive Council. She is a distinguished alumna of the University of Auckland, and we were thrilled that she accepted our invitation to be part of the judging panel. So over to you, Marie.
Thank you very much, Carol. It's wonderful to be part of these awards. I'm so impressed with what I've heard so far from the speakers. Kia ora tātou, and welcome to the award ceremony on behalf of the judging panel. Well, I went to Auckland University and then I went away to Wellington. And so I've had a number of contacts with the university in recent years, and this is one I've particularly welcomed. I'm really impressed by the idea of the awards itself and the wide range and quality of the applications. And it's certainly opened my eyes to the real impact that Auckland University and its staff are having, and students are having, on the sort of wider realm of New Zealand. And this is really a great way to give that a little bit of profile. And to, in these days when universities are under a bit of pressure, I think it's really great to highlight that and to sort of take a little more of the attention away from the STEM subjects and put it onto the cable subjects. So it's my privilege and honour to move to presenting the awards. And the first two awards, I think we've got a slide, have we, Carol? There. The first two awards go firstly to Dr. Andrew Chen for his research, for his work, Scan In, Digital Contact Tracing in New Zealand. Dr. Chen is a research fellow at Auckland University, and he has, I'm well aware as former Privacy Commissioner that he's been building up his expertise in this area for a number of years. And so when COVID became a current global and national issue of great importance, Andrew used his expertise and his academic credibility and effectively and quickly applied that to a real-time issue. He has helped shape the contact tracing tool for COVID, and he has had a major impact on policy and on practice. He has also retained, importantly, his ability to comment independently on the government's handling of these aspects of COVID. So many congratulations to Andrew. The judging panel felt this was a hugely well-deserved award and has contributed in many ways to New Zealand and to the reputation of the university. Well done. So I'm now moving, and this is just an alphabetical order matter, to Christine Ruby Davies, whose piece of work was entitled Teacher Expectations and Influences on Student Academic Outcomes. Professor Ruby Davies is director of the Wolf Fisher Research Centre at Auckland University. Now, the panel again was extremely impressed by this piece of work. It's quite a remarkable case of showing that if teachers have high expectations of their students, they can significantly improve those students' performance. What a good news story that is. Christine's work is innovative and has been adopted widely here and overseas. This work, again, has had very real impact on both policy and practice in teaching. Its focus is on helping children achieve their potential, and what better aim could there be than helping our young people achieve their potential. I also note that it's a really great convergence of public good and academic research, and so has again a very beneficial impact on both the reputation of the university and of New Zealand itself. So many congratulations, Christine. Again, we felt this was a highly deserving award. Thanks, Carol.
Right, and moving on, sorry that I'm jumping between trying to have people speak and also have the slides up at the same time. So I hope you don't mind and just bear with us. And I'm moving on now to introduce Dale Bailey, who is another of the judges. And Dale is the Chief Executive of Springboard Trust, an education not-for-profit focused on developing school principals. Dale was formerly the Director of Collections, Research and Learning at the Museum of New Zealand, Te Papa Tongarewa, the Deputy Chief Review Officer of the Education Review Office and the Northern Area Manager of Careers New Zealand. He has an extensive background in the community, particularly in the museum and heritage sector, including serving on the Auckland War Memorial Museum Board, Te Manawa Museums Trust, and is an honorary life member of the Heritage New Zealand. currently chair of the Kinderhouse Society, Spelled New Zealand Board, and the Colin McCann Research Trust, which means he has, in terms of impact, he seems to be covering quite a range of different factors. So I'm just about to put up the slides, and you will see that we'll see all 3 awardees that Dale is going to talk to today, but he will talk to them one by one.
Kia ora tātou, ngā mihi nui. Thank you very much for being invited to be part of this panel. It's been a fascinating journey to discover the type of work that's happening within the cable faculties, and congratulations to all. Our first award is for Julie Tolmie. Professor Tolmie's research reconceptualized intimate partner violence as a form of entrapment. This important work has resulted in not only legislative reforms, it's informed expert testimony, and has improved professional practice in Australia and New Zealand. And such an important piece of work, and it was really great to see, Julie, how far and wide that impact had been. So congratulations, Julie and team. Our second award is to Nikki Chamberlain. Nikki has clearly established herself as a leading class actions and litigation scholar in New Zealand. Her work has been cited in the New Zealand Supreme Court and in the Court of Appeal, and has informed the New Zealand Law Commission's review of this area of law. Nikki, we were really interested in seeing how important this work was and the way that it was shaping the way in which our society deals with these matters. And our third presentation this afternoon is to Dr. Ritesh Shah. Dr. Shah's work examines the impact of conflict, climate change, and natural disasters on learning and education. And it has provided advice on improving the system's resilience so that education can continue after such disasters. His work has been particularly advising the US AIDS advice, and particularly educational responses. And these, in some areas, this has had a particular impact, including the disasters in Haiti, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Congratulations, Dr. Shah, a very interesting piece of work and one that is impacting across the globe. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, thank you, Dale. So next on my list then to introduce 4 awards is Dr. Nicole Perry. And Dr. Perry is an Assistant Dean of Research and a Senior Lecturer in German at the Faculty of Arts. Before joining the University of Auckland, she was the Lisa Meitner Program Fellow from 2013 to 2017, funded by the Austrian Scientific Fund based at the University of Vienna. And from 2011 to 2013, she was a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Vienna's Institute for German Studies. So guten Tag to Dr. Perry.
Oh, thank you very much, Carol. It's a pleasure to be here. Kia ora koutou katoa. It was a wonderful experience to be on this panel and to see exactly what Marie was saying about how cable can influence impact and work in impact. And something I'd like to also highlight that Dan said as well is the positive influence we saw with a lot of these projects. So I'd love to introduce the first project once we get the slides up.
Yes, sorry that I'm trying to manage several things at once, but there, I am a woman, I can multitask. There we go.
So it's my pleasure to first introduce the project from Associate Professor Jennifer Lee Marshman and Danny Osborne, who have been awarded an Impact Award for their project on informing and engaging New Zealanders in elections, Vote Compass Survey, and partnership with TVNZ. This was wonderful to see, and we thought very highly of it. And with their work, they helped to keep the New Zealand public informed and promoted election awareness to voters, voter education, and ultimately helped to influence voter turnout. Congratulations, Jennifer and Danny. The second project that I am excited to introduce is the Outdoor Timber Classroom Program from Professor Andrew Barry in Creative Arts and Industries, a professor of architecture. His work has been recognized worldwide, having been to the Biennale. What we thought was very timely and important about his work here was his work with schools and how he helped mentor some of his students in creating outdoor study and play space for schools in the area. Congratulations on that, Andrew. Then I'd also like to recognize Associate Professor Stephen Winter, who works in politics and international relations. Stephen's project, Redressing Abuse in Aotearoa, was an important contribution to the Royal Commission in Abuse in Care, and shows the importance of redress. This will and will continue. This has and will continue to have a significant impact in both Aotearoa and abroad. And we'd like to recognize this for its significant impact as well. And finally, I would like to recognize Senior Lecturer in Politics and International Relations, Tom Gregory, for his project on politics of killing civilians. With this project, he liaised with the New Zealand Defence Force in helping to develop ways of redress and dealing with not only the killing of civilians, but also the injuries of civilians. Congratulations, Thomas, for this as well. Thank you, Carol.
Kia ora and Doug Shern. Thank you very much, Nicole. And we will now move on to introduce our next panelist and the last four of the awardees. So our next panelist is Dr. Elizabeth Akerd-Rose, a senior lecturer in the University of Auckland School of Architecture and Planning. She works in urban planning, specialising in history and theory, cultural policy and heritage, and has published on subjects as diverse as engineering heritage, seismicity and heritage, cultural planning and local government, civic design and activism, and engaging young people in planning. Elizabeth worked for the Paris-based OECD and government prior to this. She's currently on the Auckland Council's Heritage Advisory Panel and chair of the Frank Sargison Trust. So I will now put up the next of the slides in order that Elizabeth can share.
Thank you, Carol, and kia ora katoa, everyone. And I just want to actually add a wee bit of reinforcement to how wonderful these awards are and how important they are in faculties that are often not up there in the headlines. So it's been really interesting and a privilege to actually learn so much about what's going on and to see what a difference it's actually making in New Zealand and like that ripple spreading out abroad. So it's my great pleasure, first of all, to announce and congratulate Associate Professor Wayne Smith and Associate Professor Alan Ovens on the Moving Well project. And this is a practical new resource for teachers and others linked to health and physical education in the New Zealand curriculum, but it moves beyond the traditional sports curriculum to a games-based approach and builds on children's inherent creativity and playfulness. Its priority, I think, is to support the pleasure of physical movement and health benefits. If only this was happening in my time at school, and integrating this across all the other curriculum goals and heading towards a really holistic sense of what learning is all about. This research is already endorsed by the Ministry of Education and Sport New Zealand. It's been distributed to every primary and intermediate school in New Zealand. And while that wretched COVID has gotten in the way of actually its implementation, it's very likely to shape practice in New Zealand and to generate a huge amount of international interest as well. So congratulations, Wayne and Alan. And my second award, and it's my great privilege, in fact, to announce this, is to Professor Deborah Levy and her colleagues Raywin Hills, Jane Horan, and Barbara Plester. Now, Deborah has actually overseen a very innovative New Zealand research project exploring professional women's challenges in progressing through the property real estate sector. And it responds to the lack of women in senior management positions in New Zealand, generally probably, but particularly in the commercial property industry and the systemic barriers that they encounter. So far, it's been disseminated to senior management and crucial property companies. There've been seminars, there's a new award, there are gender targets, and it's likely to be a real catalyst for change in this particular sector. So congratulations, Deborah and your team. The third award that I have is to Associate Professor Aaron Wilson and Dr. Rebecca Jesson. Now, this is a fascinating project. It's a digital learning research-based initiative that has actually focused on low decile New Zealand schools and is beginning to demonstrate active transformation in literacy learning and teaching. It contributes to the longitudinal Manakalani educational program, which is designed to raise student outcomes and build capacity and engagement through the combination of media and digital technologies and effective teaching practice. So it's super cutting edge, but has this wonderful equity dimension to it as well. The judging panel thought the project was really well focused. It was a valuable, practical teaching approach. It's going to enhance learning outcomes by applying some really innovative new teaching technologies. And the fourth award I have the privilege to announce is to Dr. Kelsey Dean and her research in youth development. Her research forms part of the 2002 Youth Development Strategy, Aotearoa, with a metadata analysis over 15 years of international and New Zealand research. And it has also been informed by a lot of consultation with New Zealand's Indigenous communities. It has highlighted the paucity of research in New Zealand in this area, and particularly the lack from a Maori perspective. It's already contributed to a revised code of ethics for youth work in Aotearoa, an online organisational self-review tool to assess and improve youth development practices, and it's undoubtedly going to impact policy development in the future in such a critical area. So really, congratulations to you all, and thank you so much.
Kia ora, thank you so much, Elizabeth, and thank you to all our judges. I'm sure anyone who's ever sat on one of these panels really understands how much effort you put into reading the entries, thinking about them carefully, looking at them against each other and mulling over, have you made the right decision? So we really appreciate the time and effort you have put in. And we also appreciate that your support for the University of Auckland and your support for the Cable Awards. And for anyone out there who's not sure what Cable means, it does stand for, as I think someone has alluded to, the non-STEM faculties. So C for Kai, the Creative Arts and Industries, A for Arts, B for Business and Economics, L for Law, and E for Education and Social Work. So we're really proud of this innovative award to go to all these awardees. So it really only leaves two last things to be done. One, I'm going to hand over in a moment to Snegina just to round things off and thank everyone, and then ask Dan again to close proceedings. So I just will get my notes again so that I can introduce Snezhina. So I'd like to introduce Professor Snezhina Mikhailova, who is the Associate Dean Research at the University of Auckland Business School. And from 2006 to 2007, she served as Head of Department of International Business. She served a full term as a member of the Council of Cross-Cultural Competence and Management, a European research organisation headquartered in Vienna. Her research is positioned in international business, management and knowledge management, and she has a special interest in modern slavery, multinational enterprises and talent management. And if I can say that she's been a driving force behind what we are presenting today, and I'm sure she has a lot of other accolades to go to her name. So if you'd like to come to the screen, please, Snezhina.
Well, thank you, Carol, and kia ora, everyone. We are very, very pleased and thrilled with the response to our initiative, with the quality of the submissions, with the variety of disciplines and subdisciplines, research topics and research questions, and of course, the range of the impact that was documented in all submissions that our panel had to assess. So I would like to thank everyone for attending this event today. But in particular, I would like to thank and acknowledge Professor Ilan Oshry, and I know Ilan is in the audience, who came up with the idea of what we called at the time a research impact competition. And that was 2 years ago in the business school. So he initiated that and he led it, and we had a wonderful time in the business school engaging in that. So Ilan was actually very actively involved in lifting up the initiative from a single faculty, the business school, to the group of 5 faculties, the cable faculties this year. And on that note, I would also like to thank the Associate Dean's Research in the cable faculties for getting on board with the idea about the Research Impact Awards and for enacting the idea at their respective ends. We know that an idea, no matter how beautiful it is, it needs to be in action in order to, for us to be here today. And so, as both actually Carol and Faith mentioned, I would like to emphasize that the 5 cable faculties are ahead of the University of Auckland as a whole on that. But very pleased to hear that the university will also now have such awards. A special thank you to Christiane Rapp from the business school and to Usha Bhatia from the Faculty of Education and Social Work. So they have done a lot of work behind the scenes to organize things, to coordinate, to arrange several steps and activities that are associated with this initiative. To all colleagues who have submitted an entry, I just want to say we all very, very much appreciate your participation and acknowledge both the time and the effort that you have invested in putting forward your research impact cases. Thank you to all the judges for seriously engaging with all the entries, for discussing, deliberating and debating, and also making the final decisions. Finally, a very, very warm congratulations also from me to all 13 awardees on their very well deserved recognition. So thank you everyone, and to everyone, enjoy the rest of your day after we hear back from Dan for a closing karakia. Right, Carol?
Yes. Kira, thank you very much, Snezhina. And yes, thank you all of you. I see we had up to about 65 at the height of people attending this. So we're absolutely delighted. We're thrilled for all the winners. And Snezhina has passed on all our thanks to the many people who worked behind the scenes to make this happen. And I'd like to personally wish you all the very best for the rest of the day, for the coming loosening up of Auckland and the possibility of having a holiday over the summer, and a hopefully fresh start in 2022, or the kind of resilience and courage to tackle whatever faces us. So I'll now pass over to Dan. Kia ora, Dan.
Well, kia ora tātou, o te rā, ngā mihi o te ata kia koutou katoa hoki. I'd just like to take the opportunity too to express my congratulations to all the very much well-deserved winners, and to just hear some of the breadth of amazing work that's having impact far beyond what we perhaps could have imagined. I just want to acknowledge that as well. In closing, I just want to share a little bit about the opening karakia that I gave, and then I'll share a little bit about the closing karakia, because for so many of you it just seems something that we know is important to do, but we never really understand what it means. And so in my opening karakia, I called upon the Māori from the earth, and I called upon the Māori from the skies, you know, that life-supporting energy, that vitality that drives all of us, acknowledging that, you know, that we are the Māori, you know, as people, but that the Māori also is much more ancient and ancestral and powerful than any of us as individuals. And such is its strength that it destroys darkness, and it brings light into the world. And so in the closing part of that karakia, I asked the Māori to come together, you know, ostensibly for the kaupapa of the day, and then we bring it together in a haumie, huie, taikia, join, gather it together, you know, it is done. And I think I selected that karakia because I felt it reflected in part the intent of the day, and it's certainly reflected in some of the awardees and the work they're doing. And similarly, my closing karakia is just draws upon our deities, and it asks us to just to free our hearts and minds and bodies of the worries and woes, and then bring it together through rongo. And rongo matani is our deity of cultivated vegetables and kind of an industry, I suppose, is what we may think of here, and our work, the things that we do and the impact it has. And then once again, to draw together to affirm in our work. So I just wanted to share that with you, so something that was a mystery to you, so that you might understand the meaning behind the karakia that we share. Nō reira, he karakia tātou. Unuhia, unuhia ki te uru tapu nui, kia wātea, kia māma te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua, i te ara takatā. Koe rai rongo, whakairia aki ki ronga, kia tīna, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Kia ora mai tātou, kia pai tō koutou rā.
Kia ora everyone, thank you so much for your attendance, and as Dan says, go safely.
Hi, Carol.
Yeah, there was a bit of a drama trying to move between the trouble is, once the slides full slide, I can't operate anything else, and I have to come out of it in order to look at my notes and so on.
Yeah, that was my worry, because I've never done that kind of thing, and I think particularly with one.
Well, that's why I just tried to make a joke of it. You know, I am a woman, like a multitask, because the judges did want the slides up there, and I thought, no, I just have to go with it. But as long as it didn't look too untidy.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine. Everybody knows we're just doing our best, and this would be a bit different if we were all at OGH like we had planned to be. You know, with the nibbles and all the rest of it.
Yeah, well, that was a good turnout anyway. As I say, I had a quick look down. I think we hit 65 at one stage.
Carol, are you still live streaming it? So I'm just going to cancel it. Yeah, I'm going to end it now. So you can, we can chat in the private Zoom. Yeah.
Well, I think we're the only two left, aren't we?
Oh, we got still attendees.
10 people.
So,
okay.
Yeah, a few people. Yeah, I'm going to end the session now. Sorry,
Thank you.